Shalom, shalom. Decided to jump on. It's been a minute since I got on last. It's been a minute since I've been working in the yard. Up here in Michigan, we just went through a spell of cold weather, so it's getting towards the end of that. We were spoiled about a month and a half ago, and I thought spring was here. You know, we had some 70-degree weather, some 60-degree weather, and I even showed you on the video where I planted seed, putting seed down, and only to come to find out the next few weeks was going to be 30 degrees and below. So it was very cold and wasn't out here working. My helper had got a job, so it's been just me. So sometimes you got to be able to celebrate millimeters. So that's not why I got on. It has been a minute, but it's been one of those transformational process of getting out here. What's been dropping in my spirit, my ruach, has been a saying that nothing really matters until you understand everything matters. And I'll say that again because it sounds complexing, but it's very simple. It says nothing really matters until you understand that everything matters. You know, sometimes we go through processes and we want to take a time out here. We want to think, oh, that's just something small. But accumulation of small things become big things, and that's how you form habits. So sometimes we give ourselves more grace than needed to continue to develop and grow, but we're growing at a slower rate than what was intended because we really haven't grasped the importance of the small things. You know, it's really the small things that make up the big things. So you got to get to a point in your life where you understand that everything matters. Every decision you make matters. There's no insignificant choice or decision or habit or hobby or job or recreation. All that matters. Once you establish, because it talks about in Habakkuk 3, write the vision and make it plain. So once you got the vision written, then every decision you make is going to draw you closer to it or further away. And you could be thinking, okay, I had a hard day at work, or I'm tired, or what excuse I just gave you was weather related. And some of it may be in all actuality true. Like the seed I planted down, I see a few things grow. But you look at the package on the seed, it says wait to the ground temperature. It's roughly about 50 degrees and it has no threats of going to freezing. So we went below freezing. So I know that a lot of the seed I planted wasn't going to germinate into grass because the conditions wasn't there. So you got to be mindful about the things you engage in. Make sure that you're being productive, because that was money wasted, you know. And the other lesson I learned, you know, I'm not sure what all direction this video is going to take. I've been showing you, probably on some of the videos, I think I showed you some of the geese. And I was excited, you know, being a new landowner, you know, just having a few acres. And when the season started to change, the geese came into the pond. You know, I'm like, oh, man, it's beautiful. And it was different. It was something that I hadn't experienced before. Looking out over my land, seeing the geese walking in, and I was celebrating it like the season was coming. But what I didn't realize is that what I was celebrating was a nuisance, you know. So be careful what you endorse, because what you label as beautiful today could be a beautiful monster, and it's destroying. It's not actually producing fruit. It's just eating resources. So the seeds that I planted down for grass, they using it as food. So they coming in and they're flying in the pond and they're eating my food, which I understood that, okay, that seed is not going to grow because the conditions is not right for it to grow. But then on top of that, they crapping everywhere. You know, they just pooping everywhere. So it's like, man, it got to a point where no matter how beautiful I thought they were when they originally came, they started to be a nuisance. I started to be annoyed when I seen them out there landing. It went from me like, wow, this is beautiful, to like, man, I'm trying to get rid of these things. So I go through the process of deterrence, you know, chasing them out, and they're playing right in my face. So I'm walking out, shooing them, got my stick, and, you know, they fly off or go in the water, and they wait a while and they come back. And they've been doing that the last week. So now I know they're playing with me, because they wait till I get close, and then they start to fly off or fly into a point where I can't reach them. So what I did, I started initially throwing rocks, but I'm not as good as a rock thrower. I'm not David, you know, I ain't got the slingshot, so I can't aim as accurately as, some with the rock. So I was throwing it in the water and throwing it was landing all the way around it. So now it's got time for it to be progressive. Let me show you something. You see that? Yeah, it's time to get progressive. So now I've got the Red Ryder BB gun, and I realized I'm much of a better aim with this than I am with a rock. So I've got it yesterday, and they didn't come back yesterday. So I woke up this morning, and when they landed this time, I was kind of excited. I wanted to go test it out. I had a few test shots the other day, and it's a used BB gun, so it takes a while for the BBs to come out to start. But once they start coming out, it's good. So the first few, it just blows air. But when they landed today, they let me walk up on them, and I shot a few empty shots and then couldn't get away. And by the time the BB started coming out, they were too far. But they just flew to the other end of the pond. So I walked around there, and they're going to wait till I get a little closer. And it wasn't a rock. I hit that little thing, and it flew off. They both flew off. So sometimes you got to get progressive in your application of, honoring your word. Like, I have this land, and I want to be productive with it, but it's not for them to be pooping everywhere. They're making the grass die because they're pooping everywhere. Now you got to watch where you step at. Look at all this. Probably can't see it. You can see it. They're just pooping everywhere. They eating my seed and pooping, and grass is just dying. So I'm gonna have to go through and rake it out. But I'm continuing. I just put some new seed down, and I'm on that I wish they would type vibe now, because as soon as they land, I got BBs in the chamber and I'm ready to go. So every time they're gonna get tired of getting hit in the head with that. And if they don't pay attention to the BB, then I got to upgrade to the pellet. So it's going to get progressive. So same with the little a beaver. I seen a little fat beaver towards the back pond. He poked his head out as I was chasing. When I was chasing these geese, I looked off to my left side and realized that the little beaver was seeing what was going on. I guess he recognized their distress call and recognized like they were in distress. And he probably was saying today, that nigga shooting. Excuse my language, but they out here shooting. But so he poked his head out, and I seen him, and then all of a sudden he gonna tuck his head and duck under as well. But I say all that to say this: like, there's people that's in your life that when they originally came, that you thought, oh man, this is a beautiful thing. This is gonna be a beautiful friendship. This is gonna be a beautiful relationship. This is gonna be a beautiful job. Whatever it was at first. When you first looked at it, you thought it was going to be beautiful, but then you looked at the reality of it as the reality of it is it's been everything but that. And I'm not saying you can't endure hard times where you are, but you got to realize if it's just a hard time or if it's where you need to be at, if it's moving you closer to your goal or further away from your goal. Because what was happening is that the same thing I thought was beautiful, like I said, it just sat and ate up resources. It was seed to them, and it was food. But to me, it took me money to go buy that. It took me time and energy to put it out. And I was expecting something to grow from that and not just be feeding. I didn't have a birdhouse yet. And when I do have a birdhouse, it's not going to be for the peasant birds that come in and pooping over everything. So sometimes you got to do a reassessment. Some things you thought was beautiful initially are not going to be yielding the fruit that you think it should. So when I say nothing really matters until you think everything, until you understand everything matters. Before, I was like, oh, it's just nature. They just out here flying into the pond, let them be. Yeah, they eat a little seed, but that's the part of nature. And then they just kept, sometimes when you give people inches, look at these flowers growing. Look at this. Sometimes when you give people inches, they start running marathons. And then they start to get to a point where they expect it. So they were coming back every day, eating and pooping. And now it's time to say, no, they got to be evicted. So it was progressive. So sometimes you just got to have that hard conversation with those people. Like even in my job, for me, this is a trust walk with me. It's like President Trump came back and offered out the second buyout. So I took it, and we was talking with my wife on the way back from Pesach on how much longer I was going to work. And I said, well, the most I'll work is 7 years, but if there's an opportunity for me to get out earlier, then I definitely want to explore that. So we were talking about that, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Sunday. And on that Monday, they offer that second buyout for a deferred retirement. So the way they calculated my time, I qualify for a second retirement. And I'm 49, I'll be 50 in a month. So that's 2 retirements by the time I'm 50. But the key to that is like, I can't draw from that retirement until I'm like 60 or 62. So it's not like my Army retirement where I get it the next month. It's a deferred retirement where I delay it. So I'll go start looking for a part-time job and taking more control of my time, because I realized like they're benefiting from my skills and my knowledge and everything that I do there. But they're really not really sewing into me. I got to ask for time off, and it's one of the limitations of working on the job, something like that. You have to put in the time off. So I'm going to my feast days and now trying to contemplate working overtime so I can have extra time off for compensatory time. But now that I'll be able to control my day, and I have to be able to control my spending. So I got to understand like everything matters. Like I won't say used to be, I'm breaking the habit of being addicted to Facebook Marketplace. I spend a lot of money frivolously on things, and I say frivolously, but it's things that I need for land or for camping and stuff like that. But now I got to understand, like, I got to be a better discipline, a better steward of the resources. So I can't afford to just go drop. Sometimes it's simple. It'd be like $50 here, $75 there. And then sometimes it get more elaborate, like $300, $400. I got a custom-made fire pit coming, and I think that's $350. I'll show you this other custom-made fire pit I just got. And this one was, I'm almost embarrassed to say, it was $800 for a fireplace for something I'm going to burn wood in. So, but what I understand now is something I knew back then, is that everything matters. Every dollar has an assignment. We got a vision, and you got to be able to execute your vision, and your decisions have to be in line with that. So nothing really matters until you ever understand everything matters. So, and sometimes that include cutting people off who don't mean you any good, who are just playing in your face and, expending your resources. So this is going to be an area that I'm in the process of rehabbing. Got a little table out here. I'm going to have a little outdoor kitchen station with my grills. But this is my other fire pit right here. Look at that. I just thought that was so dope. Now I'm going to get some high temperature paint and paint it. But I think it'd be so dope when the fire's going on there. Looking at that. So you kind of like with the big Jeep up there, got the little Jeep down there. But I just thought it was dope. But that was $800. So that's something that I'm going to have to start, wondering if I should be doing it. Really cut back on some of these expenses. So just make sure you're not endorsing the same thing. Getting back and wrapping up this video. Making sure you're not endorsing the same thing that's playing in your face, or that's really not adding value to your life. So anything you engage in, it needs to be value added. As they were saying, like the closest way to Mount Everest, the closest way to get there is to ensure every step you take is in that direction. So you ain't got time to be backtracking or going in circles or detours. So I ain't got time to be chasing these geese around all day. So every time they come, I'm gonna come little ping them in their head until they get irritated, and then I get progressive, get a pellet or something of that nature. But just be mindful and do an assessment of your relationship, whether it be with food, like I'm in this process of doing intermittent fasting, realizing that I was overeating, and I wasn't eating because I was hungry. I was eating because I just had the taste for something. So now my hours to eat is between 1 and 7 is when I consume my meals. So and my body has to get used to that, and it doesn't feel good at times. So assess relationships. Do you have a common goal for your relationship? Are they adding value? And some of you, as I said before, are a hard conversation from really getting the life you want, and really realizing that, there's a saying that women fight for the wedding, but it's men who fight for the marriage. So they want that day, they want to look beautiful, but everything that's after that, they got to be a helpmate. and you got to realize, what are they helping you accomplish? So if they're not helping you, have you communicated the vision? Have you made it plain? Have you wrote it down? Have you had a meeting? Are you just assuming they're supposed to understand because they've been with you so long? Don't take anything for granted. You got to communicate explicitly, making sure they know. So if you make it so simple that the only thing they have to do is to follow or to get out of line, and you'll be able to know through that, through passive aggressiveness or through resistance, and you'll have to have those hard conversations and really get things in alignment, because it says, how could two walk together unless they agree? And I've been learning that me and my wife are on the same page, and it's a beautiful thing when you got that agreement. Life just works so much better. You're not in competition. You are helping collaborate for a common good. So I end on this. I subscribe to the 51-49%. And I know people are talking about 50-50 relationship, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about decisions. Like, I'm responsible of 100% of the decisions that happen in my home. I'm responsible for that. But what I do, I give her 49 shares. And the reason I give her 49 and not 50, because there's never a tie. It's never a tie. If we are at an impasse and in her 49% share, she can't convince me that we should be doing A, B, and C, then I have that 2% trump card while I make the decision on where we're going. So it's just a matter of collaboration. It's not competition. It's not me lording over her. I don't have to yell. I don't have to raise my voice. And matter of fact, I haven't done that since we've been married. We have discussions, and I make a decision. And sometimes I do make a decision that's against what she said. And at times, sometimes I go through with it. And other times I come back and I'm like, you know what? After thinking about this some more, we're going to go ahead and do this another way. And it never amazed me. One of her response was, I know I was praying for you. And that's what you need. You need a praying woman, not one that's arguing with you, saying that doesn't make sense, that's stupid, or that, that's not right, that's not going to work. If you have that type of discouragement, they may be that beautiful monster in your life. It may be the one that's coming and eating all your resources and just crapping over all your dreams and vision. So you're going to have to realize, like, okay, now you got to get things in order. And some of them just wanted the wedding. Some of them didn't want to be a wife. And you're going to have to make that assessment. And you're going to have to do that thing in your finances. You're going to have to do the same assessment with your health. Some of the things that you are actually doing is not beneficial to your health, long-term health-wise. You're going to have to make changes. You're going to have to do the same thing with your spiritual life. If you're not growing and being transformed into a new being, a new creature, then you're going to have to assess if what you're doing getting you closer or further away. So I yield at this, like, nothing will really matter until everything matters. You are a sum total of every decision you made in life. And once you understand that and you start making decisions that's in line with the direction you're going versus where you are, because that's what your vision is beyond your sight. It's for something beyond what your natural is. If you are restricted to your conditions, if you're restricted to your circumstances, then you're really blind. Even though you can see naturally, you're blind spiritually. You got to be able to look at a thing and see its true potential, and then you got to start creating a plan or a landscape of how to get there. And some of that getting there is cutting off people that are not adding value. Stop going around people who are always jealous and envious of you and always got a smart comment, because some people try to be slick with the jokes they say. They're trying to communicate something they really mean in their heart through a joke. So you got to be careful of those who are always joking about your dream not coming to pass, or you not being this, or you not all that. And they're like, I was just joking. No, you can really tell the true intentions of some people's heart by the jokes in which they say. So monitor how people speak to you, and and start stewarding your dream and start making decisions that's in line with going the way that you envision it going, and be able to make that correction. Because like I said, with these geese, initially, I endorsed them. I was like, wow, that's beautiful. Look at them coming in and being a part of the ecosystem and being a part of the pond. But then what they brought along with it, all this crap, I ain't putting up with no more crap from anybody. Shalom, shalom. Your favorite Aki.